Here we go. So I am Michelle Skaletski-Boyd, and tonight I'll be leading everyone into a meditation. I'll be doing some drumming. I like to add some drumming in because drumming can be a nice way to return back home to yourself. It can be very grounding. It can help you ride the universal flow. Mother Earth has a beautiful heartbeat, and drumming allows you to connect with that. And it's a good way to be in flow and to move into the fold of the rhythm. So the nice thing about when you're in that space is that release can occur, healing can happen in this space. And it being a new year, it's a perfect opportunity to release. We're coming up on a new moon, another perfect opportunity to release. So drum beats can help us lose all space and all time and allow ourselves to just move out of our head where many people sometimes hang out, and just instead deepen a little more, connect to that higher self, which some of you tapped into that when you were in my earlier talk. So when you're in this place of self-trust and connecting to the truth of who you are, euphoria occurs. It occurs as we surrender, as we detach from our thoughts, as we remember who we are. We let the drums beat, carry us into that place. And it can alter your state of consciousness. It can move your brain waves into theta state. So always understand that when you're listening to the drum, it's an invitation to go deeper. It's an invitation. You're allowed to go as deep as you want to go. If there's a place that just doesn't feel good to you, pass. You know, it's always about free will with me. And it should be in a place where you feel very comfortable and very open to go there. That's really important to me as well. So this is really about allowing the drum to be like a drumming circle. Some of you might have already taken place in drumming circles. You might be very aware of what I'm speaking about. And if you're in the center, if you've ever laid under a piano and listened to someone play it and you've had this beautiful rhythmic experience, or you've ever been in a drumming ceremony and you stop and you just listen to the drums for a moment and you give yourself permission to open to receive, that inner circle is where I'm inviting all of you to be. And if for some reason you're not quite sure if this is where you want to be, or if you're a little distracted by something else, then I just ask that you go into the outer circle. And you can hang out as long as you want. If you feel like time allows it, you can come into the inner circle. So the other piece, and this is really key too, is if there's something that I say, a word, a phrase, something that I use that doesn't quite resonate with you, please, in your own mind, change it to something that does. It's very important to keep you in flow. The breath is also something that I'm going to be directing you. So I like to use breath quite a bit. And so we're going to move ourselves into different layers of energies. The word intuition originated from the Latin word intuere, which means to see within. And I might be saying that wrong because I didn't take Latin, but it's I-N-T-U-E-R-I, and it means to see within. And science, the word originates from the Latin word scire, which means to know. So science and intuition are both pathways to knowing. One is a little more with observation and logical explanation, and the other with more knowledge that's derived from a deep inner place. And some events, by their very nature, cannot be scientifically explained. So I'm going to begin by talking briefly to your left brain so that you can get a feel for my energy, so you can get a feel for your space. And then we're slowly going to be entering into the sacred circle. So healings and predictions and great pyramids and infinite intelligence and all of these things, they're like hidden phenomena. Like, how do we explain these things? Sir Isaac Newton, for example, he had a love for alchemy. Not a lot of people know that, but Sir Isaac Newton was a big alchemist. And in fact, Wikipedia notes him as the last of the magicians, because long after his death in 1727, despite the fact that he had written over 1 million words on the topic of transformation, and despite the fact that he was a well-respected scientist known for his theory of gravity and the laws of light, that he felt quite possibly embodied the word of God, his successors hid his alchemy talents from the world. And not just for a while, but for centuries. And it wasn't just then that this occurred. Some say it began in the 1600s with Cartesian dualism that held to the belief that the immaterial mind and the material body don't interact. And instead, they're two different substances and two different realms. So for over 4,000 years, this idea became people's truths, keeping science and spirituality divided. In 1847, just before going into college, a young man named Ed had heard an announcement about a rancher in Roswell, New Mexico, who found debris that could not be identified. That same day, the Air Force said the occurrence was just an air balloon. Some of you know this story. And just like thousands of others, Ed believed it. He went about his day and he went on to get his doctorate at MIT. He then entered the Apollo program in 1966. And he was the 6th person to walk on the moon and only 2 people to stay walking there for such a long duration. And as some of you know who are part of Institute of Noetic Sciences, as Ed was returning to Earth, formerly known as Dr. Edgar Mitchell, he had a eureka moment. He called it a big picture effect. And it was then that he felt an inner connection to everything. And he had such a deep truth of illumination and revolution that he could not explain it. So the piece about this is that there was a radio interview that was done just before Dr. Mitchell's death at the age of 85. And he shared with the radio host that after his time on the moon, he did return to Roswell. And he spoke to many who claimed that it was not a weather balloon. Many who were there at the start shared off-the-record comments of what they say really happened. And Ed left convinced that other life does exist beyond this planet Earth. Ed, in fact, said intuition, our 6th sense, should be our first sense because it's rooted in our quantum world, which existed way before dualism ever did. Dr. Mitchell knew that knowledge can be gained not only through scientific exploration, but also through direct experiences. And because of his outer space experiences, many people today are moved to discover their own inner space experiences. So some people have said that working with me, my energy acts like a bridge or a transformational agent, interstellar touchstone. Whether you believe in the natural or you believe in the supernatural, whether you think animals are one in equality with us, or whether you know that they offer assistance with purpose and direction, or you're here for a direct experience in hopes of finding out for yourself, you're in the right place. Just like Dr. Roswell understood that there's more to life than meets the eye, indigenous cultures have understood the power of animal medicine for eons. Clans often choose totems of an animal specifically to relay certain feelings of their group, leaving an imprint of their powerful energy. And shamans often use animals to assist in spiritual healings and vision quests, be it by calling them into the experience or by adorning them with their hides or their tusks or their feathers. Maybe you were drawn to a certain animal at a young age and it's remained with you. Or maybe you see an animal on the side of the road and you make eye contact with it for just a brief moment and you sense that it's somehow giving you a message or it's medicine. Or maybe you've hunted or an animal for food or know someone who does, and you give thanks for the offering and you feel some of its medicine being transferred to you at that moment. Perhaps this idea about animal totems is very new to you, and something deep inside of you is just fascinated by it all, and that's okay too. What I'd like to give permission for is that you just give yourself the opportunity to just be open to the possibility. Because now that you're aware that certain kinds of animals can reappear in your life again and again, be it in the physical or in your dreams or showing up as tangible things, like sometimes you see animals that you're thinking about on postcards or in pictures or on figurines. Maybe you hear people passing or seeing the animals, they're talking about them. They're in a book. You get instructed to pose like them in yoga: a cow pose, a cobra pose, an eagle pose, a crow, a downward dog. And you're like, this is too much, right? There are always certain animals also that when you hear it or see it or sense it, that you get fearful. Some that scare you. Maybe you've had traumatic experiences of an animal that has actually attacked you, bitten you. Were you ever curious about why this is? Perhaps there's a deeper meaning there. Some say animals are, in particular, are shadow archetypes, and they help us move through our fears so our soul can evolve. So whether we call it a totem animal or a spirit animal or a power animal or a spirit guide or an archetype, animal reflections are often our own. They are beholders of ancient wisdom, often showing up on our path as an ally, a teacher, a protector, and yes, sometimes a trickster. Some are here to assist you in that way, but always, always, always with the intention of love, always for your highest good. And as you shift and as your spirit matures and expands, so does the energy of your totem animals. All are reflections of your subconscious mind. Some are here to help you affirm your truth. Some are here to help you know your spiritual goals. Now, some of you are aware that I have written 3 bestsellers and that I also wrote a novel. And in the novel, I share many spiritual truths, including some animal wisdom. And there's a point in the book where I share about the raven in itself. Now, I was born and raised into a family where a lot of Cherokee traditions were practiced. And just a couple of months before my novel was released, I began receiving a strong pull to adopt a child. I was deep in meditation about this when a cicada appeared. And I thought, this is weird. Why am I getting a cicada? And I could hear the word cicada, so I knew it was the cicada. It made its timbre sound. If any of you have ever heard a cicada or got to walk in any areas where cicadas exist, you know what I mean by this. And it slowly made its way into my awareness, but I had no idea what this meant. All I knew is that the word cicada kept repeating again and again. Well, I do what I think a lot of people do, right? You go online and you start researching it. What's cicada mean? What's the animal totem for cicada? And during my research, I discovered a cicada only emerges after slowly growing underground for 17 years. There's a cicada that exists. There's several cicada types, but one in particular only emerges after being underground for 17 years. When I read this, my jaw dropped because my husband and I had been infertile for 17 years. Whew, talk about signs and symbols that blow you off the earth. This was one of them. And at this point, we were about ready to give up hope. And so when I received this spirit guide message, I knew my daughter was on her way. And I stepped off Bob Olson's list and made space for her. And she showed up, and absolutely 100%, she is in our life. and she is now our daughter. So some of you may have your own stories like this, and others of you still need to connect, and that's okay. That's why you're here. You might get it tonight. Who knows? Animals are transition guides. And not long ago, my husband and I also got into a spat, and this happens after you've been married for as long as we have. He stayed home. I went into the woods where I did a walking meditation. And about 2 miles in, I asked the trees for some healing. I wanted to put the disagreement behind me and start fresh. And after sending thanks to the trees and to the forest and to everything that I like to do, I heard a deep throaty and I looked up and I could only see the tops of the trees, and I dismissed it and I thought, whatever, and I just kept walking. Well, the sound grew louder, this and so I looked up again and I'm backtrapping, like, where is this coming from, right? And it was, I could barely see it, but there it was, perched on the highest branch in a tree, and I could make out only the bird's head, and it was turned to the side just enough so I could see its beak. And the bird faced forward and then blended back into the trees, and I began to laugh, and I continued on my path. And I had just enough time to say, was that a raven or was that a crow? And the bird flew right on in front of me. It flapped its large black wings, and I mean, it just about knocked me off my shoes, because I was like, whoa, holy man. It turns its head just past me and it made eye contact. And when you see an animal make eye contact, like that, you know it's a message for you. And it revealed its royal raven self to me. And it confirmed that the energy transfer was complete. And that, anybody that knows anything about a raven knows the raven can come in as a trickster, but it also can be a huge transformer. And it was letting me transform and heal the energies with the spat. It was beautiful. And if journeying is new to you, what I will say is that there is no right or wrong with journeying. Some people will journey and they'll leave the earth. And other people will just stay right where they are, and they'll focus on their breathing, and they'll notice that they're more relaxed. And there's all different levels, and there's no right or there's no wrong. Just make it a unique experience for yourself. The goal of using some drumming and the goal of allowing the shamanic energies to move through you is so that you can move from the ordinary into the non-ordinary realms. So if it feels good to you, I would ask that you take a moment and you call in your spiritual team, whatever that means for you. Higher self energies, God source energies, infinite intelligence. Just set an intention for yourself, whatever that is. Just take a moment and I'll do the same. The goal of this meditation is to take you through the different elements of water and air and earth and fire. And depending on how you receive and how open you are to receive, you may notice in the beginning, you might all of a sudden see this big eye that appears in front of you, and you're like, why is there a huge eyeball opening? That's your third eye just revealing itself, letting you know that it's opening. Some of you might see different colors. All of a sudden, wow, why am I getting bright orange or bright yellow or whatever color wants to come in? Some of you might get sounds that come in. You might notice temperature changes or different sensations in the room. This is just all giving you feedback that yes, you are moving into these non-ordinary realms. So just move through the experience similar to a dream. Just give yourself permission to stay in it. I wonder what this means for me. And you try to go into introspect mode. You're going to like fall out of the dream or fall out of the state unless you have ample experience with this. So my advice to you is just move through it without questioning what's happening and save the self-reflection until the end. Allow your higher self to lead, allow your totem animal to choose you. If you say, you know, I really have missed such and such an animal, please come in. That's completely, again, it's your truth. Go with what feels good to you. Tips though is that you wait and have the animal come to you in the same way that I was doing during meditation and the cicada just came in. Notice your breath as it's moving in to your body. And just begin to bathe in the sense of stillness of the breath and how the breath wants to move. And in a moment, the drum is going to begin. And as it begins, I'm going to walk you through it first, and then I'm going to actually pick up the drum and I'm going to want you to begin. So I'm not going to be talking during the meditation at all. So I'm going to walk you very briefly through what's going to happen. When the drumming starts, I want you to imagine that your feet are walking on sodden earth. You could be barefoot, you could be in moccasins, your favorite shoes. Allow it just to happen. At first, it's going to feel like you're making it up. That's perfectly okay. The world of imagination is how we move into intuition. Without imagination, we wouldn't be able to get into it. So you're going to feel the weight of your body as though you are walking on the earth, secured by Mother Gaia. Totally safe. And I'd like for you to bring in as many sensory experiences into your imagination as possible, because when you do that, you awaken your intuition. You start to bring in the five senses so the sixth sense can kick in. So smell the duff beneath your feet, smell the sap of the trees, or hear the stream or the natures and the calls of nature, the sounds of whatever wants to come in. Bring in all the senses, the knowingness, the feeling, the experience as you step onto this sacred ground and as you anchor yourself and you center yourself and you trust your inner guidance and you trust the heartbeat of the earth to lead the way. So the drum is going to be used as a tool of transition. And as you're moving into the experience, I want you just to be aware. Are you noticing like you're in a cave? Does it feel like you're indoors? Does it feel like you're outdoors? Does it feel like there's any signs or symbols that are coming in? Be aware of any of the four elements, the water, the wind, fire or sun. Be aware of the earth. And be aware, can you sense any spiritual beings who are here to assist you on your path? So to begin officially, I'd like everybody to get comfortable, just as I'm going to do here. Good. So in just a moment, I'm going to quiet my voice. Continue to focus on your breathing. Continue to set your intention. And allow your spirit animal to come to you if you're new to this. irritated in the beginning. Very normal. Just move through it with the breath. Just keep focusing on your breathing. Here we go. please ground. This is where your rocks can come in handy, or picturing the rocks. You can learn more about me at soulfelt.com.
Please say your website again, soul something.
SoulFelt, SoulFelt.com.